Good afternoon, and thank you all for joining us. We are here to highlight a recent human smuggling and kidnapping case that resulted in the arrest of several suspects and the rescue of 18 people. Before we get into the details, we'd like to introduce you to some of the guests that have joined us here today that have either played an active role or supported this recent initiative. Of course, first we'd like to introduce our Mayor, Sylvester Turner, followed by Police Chief Art Aceveda. We have HPD Commander Jim Dale with Vice, along with Homicide Lieutenant Zachary Becker. We have District A Council Member and Chair of the Public Safety Committee and Homeland Security, Brenda Stardig. We also have with us today Department of Homeland Security Investigations Assistant Special Chief in charge, Agent I should say in charge, Hiram Prado. We also have several community leaders that we are very glad to have with us, Ricardo Barnes and Victor Alvarez. Thank you all for joining us. And now we'll turn over the mic to Mayor Sylvester Turner.
Thank you. And just very briefly, certainly here with Councilmember Brenda Stardick from District A, and I want to thank Chief Aceveda and all of the fine men and women of HPD. I want to start by recognizing the excellent work of our Vice Human Trafficking Unit and Homicide, Narcotics, and Northwest Patrol tactical teams. And I also want to thank our federal partners at Homeland Security for their joint efforts to throw out this instance of aggravated kidnapping, sexual assault, and smuggling. And Chief Aceveda will discuss the specifics, but the specifics that tell about the brutal sexual violence, the multiple female victims, and the other adults in this case, and juveniles, that came to an end. Their teamwork led to the arrest of 5 suspects and the rescue of 2 females, 16 males, total of 18 individuals, victims of kidnapping and sexual assault. The road to recovery for these victims in this case and their families is long. Our prayers and thoughts will be with many of them. And in this case, HPD likely intervened before a progression of violence in the form of being sold for sex or labor occurred. And these kinds of cases can often lead to trafficking, and HPD's excellent work kept these heinous acts from continuing. One thing that I do want to stress is that, again, if in our community, in our city, if you see something, let me encourage people to say something. When you see activity that is taking place out of the norm, do not hesitate to report it. And oftentimes, the information that you provide can lead to the arrest of people who are acting contrary to the laws of the city of Houston. Now let me stop and yield to Chief Aceveda.
Thank you, Mayor, Council Member, and all of our colleagues for being here. Good afternoon, and again, thanks for your leadership and for setting the tone for our city. Today we're really joined by our federal partners from the Department of Homeland Security and Homeland Security Investigations, and I'm happy to have our partners here with me and Assistant Special Agent in Charge, Prado. We're here to talk about the great police work of the men and women of the Houston Police Department, but beyond that, also the partnership we have, the focused partnership that focuses on public safety and on violent criminals and on organizations that are involved in the trafficking of people, and so, quite often they're also involved in the smuggling and trafficking of people and drugs. And today we're here to talk about the success of an investigation and the great police work that led to the recovery of 18 individuals that were being trafficked, including 2 women, and that were kidnapped and sexually assaulted by people that we all find pretty despicable. On June 5th, our Human Trafficking Unit and the Vice Division was contacted by the Criminal Intelligence and Homicide Divisions of the Houston Police Department regarding a kidnapping victim being held for ransom here in the Houston area. The victim's family members had contacted the Homicide Division and asked for help. The Human Trafficking Unit immediately responded to the general area of where officers believed the suspects and victims may be located, and the unit conducted a traffic stop and rescued a juvenile victim and detained several suspects. The scene was further investigated by the Homicide Division and our partners at the Homeland Security Investigations, HSI. They continue to work that scene, and the Human Trafficking Unit and CID continue to search for additional victims. This led to a location in northwest Houston near Clay Road and the Sam Houston Tollway. A multi-divisional rescue operation was spearheaded and conducted at the location for a kidnapped victim by the Human Trafficking Unit. Human Trafficking Unit officers conducted a money exchange at that location with an additional suspect for the purchase of an additional kidnapped victim. The arrest of this suspect led to additional information on the whereabouts of a stash house where other victims were being held against their will. At that point, with the assistance of the Houston Police Department Northwest Crime Suppression Team, they converged on that location at a residence in the 10,400 block of Rock Crest Road to conduct a rescue operation of those victims. Due to the combined efforts of all the divisions involved and our friends and partners at the Homeland Security Investigations, we were able to rescue 16 additional victims from deplorable conditions. Our investigation determined that women were held captive and sexually assaulted for 25 days. The Human Trafficking Unit followed up on several of the allegations, resulted in 5 suspects charged with engaging in organized crime. Of those, three were charged with sexual assault. 2 had additional charge of aggravated kidnapping. Victims were transported to the hospitals and HSI detention centers for further statements. These victims from various Latin American countries also received care from our Houston Police Department Victim Services Unit. Because at the Houston Police Department, the City of Houston, we, again, don't focus on the status of an individual, a victim, of a crime against a human being is something that matters to all of us. The investigation, again, was a collaborative effort of numerous undercover uniformed squads of the Houston Police Department. The men and women who helped rescue these victims and arrested these suspects demonstrate the professionalism, compassion, and most importantly, the excellence they exhibit each and every day. We're all very proud of our officers. We're very proud of our partnership. And again, it's important to note in this city where we are a welcoming city, we have a singular focus, and that is on the collective safety of anyone that works, lives, resides, or visits in the city of Houston. That's what our focus is, and I think, again, what we've shown here with our collaborative efforts between all of our units and our HSI partners at the Homeland Security Investigations, it's not about public sentiment, it's about public safety, and it's not about politics, it's about saving lives. And I just want to reiterate what the mayor said, and that is that if you see something suspicious, a lot of traffic in and out of a house, strange times of the night, people coming and going that you don't even recognize, if you see patterns that don't seem right, please call 911 or contact your local station. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember Stardig, and then we'll have Special Agent Prado say a few words. We'll then take questions, and I'll do Spanish from the podium here in a little bit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you, Mayor. Thank you for your commitment to public safety. As the Chair of Public Safety and Homeland Security, working with this administration and this HPD team is a tremendous honor. I know as a volunteer for over 20 years, I know most everyone up here, and I know their commitment to saving lives, and that's why I'm here today, to make sure that everyone understands how important it is, no matter where you're from, who you are, when you're in our community, that you are safe. We want to make sure that we are supporting our Houston Police Department. You are the eyes and the ears. We need all Houstonians reporting any suspicious activity. When you see cars coming and going on a regular schedule, and things don't look right, get to know your neighbor. You need to do the right thing, and you need to contact someone. If you're not comfortable contacting the Houston Police Department, then contact Crime Stoppers. They're another resource. They've been in business as long as I can remember, and I've been working with them for over 20 years. We ask that you please reach out. Go to your local church. Go somewhere and ask for help, and make sure that 28 days, was it 20? 25 days. A woman was sexually assaulted? 1 day is too many. So we need your help. We need Houstonians to call and report any suspicious activity. Today, again, they were hiding in plain sight. Don't look the other way. Call police or Crime Stoppers. Watch out for your neighbors. And Captain, Commander, I want to thank you in Northwest. I want to thank you for all you've done, and again, Commander, Vice, Division, everyone up here, Chiefs, thank you for all that you've done, And of course, I'm also honored to have two of my dear friends, civic leaders in the community that have worked with me for about 15 or 20 years in making our community safer, and they are been proactive in supporting us and been on Crime Stoppers boards and other things. So once again, I want to recognize them for coming down today. And Mayor, thank you again today for making it right. If you think Northwest is one of the lowest crime areas in Houston, at least it was, and today it's unsettling. It's unsettling this is happening so close to home, down the street from a YMCA. Please help us get the word out. Thank you.
And now I'd like to invite up the Assistant Special Agent in charge of the Homeland Security Investigations from DHS, and that's Special Agent Prado.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon. First and foremost, I want to thank Mayor Turner, Councilmember Stardig, and Chief Acevedo, and also the Houston Police Department for their outstanding work in rescuing these hostages, and also for their continued support of Homeland Security investigations. This cooperative effort highlights that we cannot do our job if it wasn't with the assistance of our local law enforcement partners. Unfortunately, these type of cases are far too common. Human smugglers are keenly aware of the fear that exists in these immigrant communities, and they exploit this fear and victimize the people that they smuggle. We often see cases in where immigrants are held hostages and their family members are extorted for additional monies. We also see cases in which immigrants are left to die in the brush because they are too tired or injured to continue. We also see cases in which immigrants are physically and sexually assaulted. The bottom line is that human smugglers are dangerous and brutal criminals who are not concerned with the health and safety of the immigrants that they smuggle. They treat immigrants like cargo and operate with a reckless disregard for their lives. And that is why it is critical to get our message out today to educate the public and the immigrant community on the dangers of dealing with human smuggling organizations. The message is, don't take a chance with the lives of your loved ones. Thank you so much.
And let me just add that those the 16 male victims, because they are victims that are being exploited, like it's been said, they're held basically with no clothing down to their skivvies, so they can't escape. They're held against their will, and ultimately they basically are enslaved in some cases for labor and in some cases for sex. And so it is very dangerous. I'm just glad that we were able to get these people rescued. So with that, we'll open up to any questions for any of us up here.
Chief, could you talk about of the people being held for ransom? Did their families reach out to HPD, or are we talking about immigrants without status, so families did not reach out to local authorities, when they were basically being held?
Yeah, I think this all started with a family reaching out to us of a person that was being held against their will. And, we always talk about what the mayor and the police department, I think all of us here in Houston talk about, is that we are a welcoming city, and when we always have the national debate about local law enforcement and the immigration enforcement and whether or not we should be involved in it, we have got to create and maintain trust. And so we always focus on relationships here with everyone that resides in this community of immigrants, in this nation of immigrants. And I'm just grateful that they felt comfortable enough in contacting the Houston Police Department. And without that trust, we would still be having a home with 16 people basically being held hostage, with women being sexually assaulted, and with people being treated as less than human. And so, yeah, it's really important, and that's we're glad that they came forward.
I know you touched upon this, but with the heated rhetoric going on right now, what would you say to those families about coming forward to HPD specifically?
I would say they need to come forward, and quite frankly, with the U visa process and other processes that are available when you're a victim of a crime, we can actually use that process as long as you completely cooperate with law enforcement and cooperate in terms of the prosecution of the crime, where you can actually become, legitimately be within the community. In many instances, it ends up turning into lawful permanent residency. But It starts with people coming forward. And the reason we continue, and like I said, the mayor sets that tone of being a welcoming city, is we don't want anyone to be victimized. And we don't want people to be exploited, and we don't want to create fear where people won't come forward. Because these people that are involved in this type of crime do two other things. They're involved in other crimes, and they also are like a magnet for the criminal element. And so we want to get these five guys, we want to get them off the streets and behind bars where they belong. Anything else?
Yeah, when it comes to how these victims.
Who are you with?
I'm with Patriot.
Okay.
When it comes to these victims actually encountering these smugglers, was it done across the border? Was it done here in Houston? Do we know how they met?
No, that more than likely they were smuggled through, smuggled here, brought to a safe house or a crash house or whatever you want to call it. But the truth of the matter is that people don't realize this. This police department actually works with police departments in Guatemala and El Salvador and Mexico, Colombia, where we've actually worked both ends of the operation. We've actually cooperated with our foreign partners in prosecuting the foreign piece of the operation and cooperating with them, and then we prosecute the piece of the operations happening in the United States. And I think that that's the only way that you can actually tear down these organizations.
Chief, are you able to tell us or elaborate at all on the ages of these victims? And we know they were traumatized, but how are they doing right now?
Well, imagine being held, against your will for especially the young lady that was sexually assaulted over a period of 25 days. The multiple sexual assaults is very traumatizing, but I'm proud of the fact that in the last 2.5 years, we have really expanded our victim services unit here at the Houston Police Department. One of the things that I remember talking to the mayor about when I got here in 2016 is that our victim services unit was it was too small. And with the leadership of Chief Dobbins and his team and the support of the mayor, we've been able to actually increase that unit, and our goal is to continue to increase it through grant funding and general funds, because part of what we need to do is take victims and put them on a road and a path to recovery and to being a survivor. And so they're doing as well as can be expected, but just thank God that they're not in those circumstances anymore. Anything else?
One last question. When it comes to advice for neighbors to pay attention for signs of something like a stash house being in our neighborhood, what advice is there for people in communities out there? Since you're saying this was a community that's not used to crime.
Look, crime happens everywhere. There's in the entire country. It happens in rich areas, poor areas, communities of color, and quite frankly, like this case, it happens in neighborhoods where people don't think. There's an underbelly to communities and neighborhoods everywhere, and sometimes they'll pick neighborhoods where people least expect it, because people think that not in my neighborhood. Well, we have to be vigilant because it can happen in your neighborhood, and you have to be looking at what looks out of the ordinary. And I promise you, in these stash houses, if you pay attention, there's a lot of extraordinary activity going on, and it doesn't cost anything to just call the police department so we can take a look at what's going on.